Live from the Business RadioX studio, welcome to Time Well Spent with Julie Hullett, your source for inspiring stories of busy people who have made more time to do what they love. Now, here's your host, Julie Hullett.
Hello, everyone. My guest today is Cindy David, one of those creative types who never seems to sit still. She currently owns and operates Cindy David Jewelry Designs and Cindy David Yoga here in Nashville. She has had the jewelry business for 20 years in September. That's quite a feat. Congratulations, Cindy. And has had the yoga business for 3 years, although personally, she's been practicing yoga for many, many years now. Her jewelry has been shown in museums all over the country and even right here at the Frisk Museum of Art in Nashville. Her yoga practice is taught in multiple locations, and she will also come to you for a personal session as well. Welcome, Cindy. I'm glad you're here today.
Thank you, Julie. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. You and I have crossed paths a few times over the years. I'm glad to have the opportunity to get and share information about a few of the things you're involved in. You are certainly one busy woman. I have a couple of questions for you right up front about your jewelry business, okay? When you were a kid, were you kind of a girly girl in your mom's jewelry box, or exactly how did you discover that that was one of your gifts?
So, believe it or not, I actually was not a girly girl.
Okay.
And that's the funniest part of this entire story. I was quite the opposite. I was the nerd and the jock. So I was super smart, and I did every athletics that you can imagine. And, but I will tell you a little aside here. My background's Lebanese, and Lebanese babies are actually adorned in jewelry.
Ah.
Right when they come out of the womb, they're adorned with gold and they're adorned with jewelry, the men and the women, the young babies, girls and boys. And so I guess you could say that I was born into this, but I was never like a girly girl where I sought jewelry and I was actually playing with my mother's pearls. We didn't have that sort of thing growing up. And so the biggest thing for me, how I got into jewelry was actually by accident. I went to an astrologer, and the only reason I went to an astrologer was because one of my friends paid for half the visit. That was something that I was not into, and I was at a turning point in my life. And we worked together, and she had said, maybe give this a try. And I did. And from that appointment, the lady was like, you've got this amazing talent. Do you paint? Do you draw? And I was like, art smart lady, you're on crack. Like, I believe this. Do you know who I am? I'm a professional working woman. And so I kind of left that appointment thinking, and she's like, you'll never be happy unless you work for yourself. Those were the 3 words. I never walked out of that appointment saying, I'm going to do jewelry.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's the short end of that thing. And then I met a lady in Brentwood, and I complimented her on her jewelry. And sure enough, she's like, why don't you come to my office? And I was like, okay. And so I did. She turns out that she works in a small real estate office with 4 women. I took a long lunch break. I was working at Coca-Cola, met with those 4 women. And bottom line is I sold $2,000 in 1 hour over a time of like an hour. And literally I made more in 1 hour than I did in 40 hours of working at Coca-Cola.
What a great story.
Springboard of how my jewelry business began.
Excellent. Well, that's great. And I love the fact that you were a nerd and a jock. Most people can't balance both of those things. And then the astrologer, how cool is that she gave you that, those words to go with? I'm assuming you haven't been back to her to say you were right.
Actually, I have. We are friends to this day, and she still provides. She's an amazing woman. She provides amazing guidance, and she's here in Nashville. So if anyone wants that information, just let me know. But
excellent.
Less than a month ago.
Okay, fabulous.
Yeah.
I've seen your jewelry. I've actually ordered some jewelry. You have beautiful things. I ran into you recently, and you had a nice stack on your arm. And I've heard you say that your art is wearable art. Sorry, your jewelry is wearable art. So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes. So just like any artist, I define myself as a jewelry artist, and every piece and thing that I work with and make with is designed with love. It comes from my heart. And I want women to feel good about themselves, and I want them to feel bold and alluring and provocative. And that is my driving force behind every piece. I will never tell you something looks good on you for the sake of just to make the sale. That's just not how I am. I will be authentic and truthful. And if something looks good on you, I'll be like, that looks amazing. And if it looks horrible on you, well, I may not say horrible, but I will let you know that maybe you want to try another piece.
It's not your best look. That's what I like.
It's not your best look. And so that's kind of what it is. And like any artist, you go through ups and downs. There's the artist dilemma and, what am I going to do and what colors and this and that. And sometimes I do get blocked, and sometimes I care and not know what to do, what to design. And within, maybe I'll have pieces laid out in my studio and like a week, and I feel like, oh my gosh, it's so stressful. Don't know what to do. And then within a week, I will have 10 pieces finished. I'll look at them. I've been looking at them all week, and then I'll have a burst of inspiration. And then I finish them all out at one time. And it's got to have, I got to look at that piece and say, I love it.
Oh, what a gift. What a gift. And then what about, I know you custom make jewelry for people as well. So what is an example of the most, without a name, of course, the most unusual request you've had for a piece of jewelry?
Well, believe it or not, I actually have, I work with a lot of people to do custom designs. That's my specialty. And that's what I pride myself on, from wedding jewelry to anniversary to that sort of thing. But the most unusual piece that I did was years ago. I entered an ugly necklace contest. I was a new designer, and I thought it would be fun. And you have to spend as much time creating an ugly piece of jewelry as you do a beautiful piece of jewelry. So
you're putting a lot of thought into it.
It's the same. Okay. You spend the same amount of time. You have to balance things left and right.
Right.
You have to create symmetry, and you have to look at texture and colors. Needless to say, I can't design an ugly necklace. I actually did not win the contest.
That's good.
It really was hideous. Okay. This necklace had skulls. It looked like something from Pirates of the Caribbean. It had skulls, and it had shells, and it had, skeletons hanging up. Anyway,
okay. Get the picture.
I can't design ugly.
That's good. That's very good, especially for you and your clients, I think. I don't know how to segue quite from skulls to yoga, but I'm going to try. So how did you first get into that?
So I've been practicing yoga for the last 20 something years. Mm-hmm. And literally, I love being a student. I was in a class one day. It was a hot vinyasa class, and the teacher's words just literally said at the end of the class, have you ever considered teacher training? And the impact that the words that she had, she used with authority, and this is what a teacher does, and blah, blah. And I literally, that was it. I was like, yes. In that moment, I was like, I went from, I've never taught a class in my life to literally, I signed up for teacher training within a couple of weeks of that class.
Excellent. During the pandemic, the business owners that were nimble and able to modify their business didn't lose much time or business. And I know you were one of the first yoga classes online in Nashville. Did people respond well to that? Did you have what you expected as far as, traffic and people wanting to do that?
I would say yes. And so initially, when the pandemic hit, my goal was like, just let's do Facebook Lives. I had never done a Facebook Live in my entire life. And I clicked that little live button and you click it and you are live. And I was just like, I did an hour class, Facebook Live. And I was like, we're in lockdown. Everything's closed. We can't leave our houses. And I'm like, it's the COVID crazies. We need to move our body. Like we didn't. And that's how it started. And so I literally would get online. I'd press that button and we'd move our bodies because I didn't want to practice alone. I'd tell all my friends, I'm like, get on Facebook, practice with me. I don't want to be talking into the camera by myself. I still am, but that's how it started. And then that rolled into people wanted more and they wanted more of a closed container to practice. So we moved into Zoom. And then I got private lessons from there. I worked with a private client for 2 years. And then to this day, I still continue on Zoom. So I'm now that studios have opened, I'm in the studio, I'm on Zoom, and I'm in the community. And I teach and practice every day, sometimes twice or 3 times a day.
Well, it shows when I see you and your presence and the way you present yourself, it shows that you've got that grace and good for you. And you're helping people with that. So that's a big plus. I read you said one time that you could see a physical transformation in people when they work with you. Why do you think that is?
Well, you're connecting the body, mind, and spirit. And when I work with people, a lot of people come with their blocks, their perceived blocks about, I'm not a flexible person. Immediately, when someone says that to you, you're like, oh, I see your block. And so then we start to work with some of the poses and they start doing flexible, grabbing their toes, doing things that surprise themselves. And I'm like, look at you, you're working on your flexibility. And they're almost shocked because they're like, whoa, I'm actually touching my toes. Not as hard as they think, but people make it harder.
Sure.
That's with everything. The balance poses are a really big one. A lot of people say, I can't balance. And I'll see them standing on one leg. And I'm like, what do you think you're doing right now?
Guess what? That's great. I also know that you have a lot of hobbies in addition to running 2 businesses, and that's travel, salsa dancing, cooking, gardening. And I know there are many more, but of the ones I just named, which one gives you the most joy and why is that?
So this one is a challenging question for me to answer because I want to say all of them, but truthfully, I would say I'm tied for top 2. So travel is my number 1 love. If I have to do a number 1, I've been all around the world. I've seen different cultures. I just love the sense of adventure, doing things differently, traveling, meeting new people, and getting outside of my box. And then my second one is, and again, this is pretty tied, is cooking. And again, I'm Lebanese, so food is love. Love is food. And if I could have like a 6th love language, food would definitely be mine.
It's definitely one of mine, for sure. I am living to eat. I don't care what anybody else says. So running 2 businesses is a lot of pressure. Okay, I totally understand that. And I know that you are a big fan, a proponent of self-care. So how do you carve out time for yourself and your self-care with all that going on?
Right. So the short answer is that you always have to make yourself and time a priority, not an option. So absolutely have non-negotiables when it comes to my morning ritual. So the first thing that I would say is creating a morning habit or a morning ritual, something that gives back to you and puts you as a priority and brings you joy before you go and caretake and firefight and get on with your day. That could be 5 minutes. With me, I have a little bit more time flexibility, which is how I drive my businesses. Time freedom is very important. So for me, my morning ritual revolves around coffee. I'll listen to a Dharma talk. I've got my meditation that I listen to a guy here in Nashville. And then if I have time after that, then I'll do a yoga practice. Okay. But I'm not the average person when it comes to something like that. And I have a little bit more time. If you don't have a lot of time, then perhaps you could do like something simple, like a gratitude list, and list 3 things that you're grateful for in the morning.
Good for you.
I've been doing this for years. I have an evening ritual as well. And before I go to bed, and my boyfriend will attest to this, we do what's called like highlights. And we basically recap the day. If we had highlights with each other, that's mainly what it's for, to just kind of be like, what are you grateful for? What are you thankful for? And that's a beautiful way to end the day. And so that's what I do. Again, if you're by yourself, then you could just do, a 3 to 5 gratitude list of things that you were grateful for during the day.
Yeah. Good for you. And I'm all about rituals. I have my own morning routine, very similar, always coffee. Before anything else, no interaction with anyone until I've had the coffee. So I understand that. And the gratitude, that's another thing, because I find, for me personally, if I'm focused on what I'm grateful for, it changes my whole day, my perspective about everything I do and people I come in touch with. And it sounds like it's the same for you.
Absolutely. You get to end the day with something positive, and then
begin the next one
day with something positive.
Yeah. One question I always like to ask people, if you had a day where you had absolutely nothing on your calendar, and I know that's most unlikely in your case, but if you did, could you practice the art of doing nothing?
The honest answer is
yes. The honest answer is not only no, but heck no. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think it's something that I really do aspire to. Mm. But for me, I think it depends on how you define nothing. Like nothing to me would be like sitting, like just plunking your feet in the sand or something. But then you're doing something, right?
Well, right. But if you just sit there in the sand, or and just
right.
do nothing.
So that would be my, I can just sit there. My next best thing would just be a mindless thing, which is coloring. I actually love to color.
Okay. Good to know. And then I'd like to ask you, what is the one thing that always makes you laugh? Always.
Wow, that's a good question. I would just say funny movies.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Funny movies or funny women authors that really get into that can describe a scene that has happened to you as a woman, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe she actually wrote about
it. Yeah, I understand. Well, I think with a joyful lifestyle and practicing gratitude, and you're more open to that. And I think, laughing is so important. And I'm interested in what, flips that switch, because it's different for everybody. But there's usually one thing that always makes somebody laugh. So I'm glad to know what yours is, and I will try to find some movies for you. How about that?
That sounds great.
All right. Well, we're now going to move on to the lightning round, and I'm going to say a word or a phrase, and you give me your answer. Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay. Window or aisle?
Window.
Dinner in or dinner out?
Ooh, tough choice. Dinner in.
Okay. Staycation or vacation?
Vacation.
Okay. I don't even need to ask the next one. Introvert or extrovert?
Completely extrovert.
All right. Mountain or beach?
Beach.
All right. And if you could visit in a time machine another decade, which one would you choose?
Ooh, I would do the Roaring 20s.
20s. Okay.
I love that whole like dancing and just kind of everyone, the 20s, roaring.
The clothes, the champagne, it was just fabulous. It was roaring.
Everyone was having a blast. It was like a party, and it was in the middle of the Depression, but they just found a way to get out and make themselves happy amidst their circumstances.
Which is what we should all be doing every day right now, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much, Cindy. I'm glad you were here today. It was fun to get to know you a little bit better online. And for our listeners, to wrap up, Cindy is generously offering a discount code both for her yoga classes and her jewelry. So, Cindy, will you let us know what those codes are and the expiration date, please?
Sure. So, the yoga, it's just a free yoga class. And the jewelry is Julie 15.
Excellent. I'll remember that.
15% off.
All right. JULIE 15. And what's the expiration date, please?
Oh, that's right. The end of this year.
12/31. Okay.
12/31/22.
You guys, Cindy is now going to give us where you can connect with her online, her social, etc. And I would encourage you to go look at her website and that beautiful jewelry and sign up for a free yoga class. So, Cindy, where can they connect with you online?
Great. Thank you. So for my jewelry business, it is Cindy David Designs or cindydavid.com. And for the yoga business, it's cindydavidyoga.com.
Okay.
And it's the same thing on Instagram and social, Cindy David Yoga, Cindy David Jewelry on Facebook, and Cindy David Designs on Instagram.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Cindy. I appreciate you being here. And now here's a time-saving tip to help you manage your workload so you have more free time. When you start your work week, make a list in your daily notebook, journal, or even a Post-it note of your top priorities for the week. This will help you focus on the bigger picture of what needs to be done now, rather than getting bogged down or feeling overwhelmed by the tiny tasks that seem to consume our daily lives and often lead nowhere. When you focus on the bigger picture, you'll give yourself the flexibility to say no to things that don't align with your goals. So thank you all for listening. And if you have any questions about the podcast, I hope you'll connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I answer all messages. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Time Well Spent with Julie Hullett. This show is brought to you by Julie Hullett Concierge LLC, a personal concierge service in Nashville, Tennessee. Learn more at juliehullett.com.